Are budget smartphones finally worth it? Like any strong independent woman, I love a good bargain. But here's the thing, with every price drop come compromises. I learned that this mantra applies across the board and not even just for makeup or clothes shopping or food, but also to technology. So the question becomes, what can budget phones do now and are they actually worth it? I tested out the RealMe C2 to try and answer that very question. The RealMe C2 seemed like the perfect candidate for this video because it actually costs a fraction of what you think you'd spend for a smartphone. To be blunt about it, and this is very important to me, the RealMe C2 does not look cheap. It has this diamond cut design, which is pretty unique and looks really good with the light. It even has that texture. Don't get me wrong though, this is not the most original look because we've seen this on the Oppo Diamond Black phones, but you can't deny that it looks classy. Especially for the fact that this is a plastic back. I do get scared that when I put it in my bag or my pocket, it gets scratched up by other things in my bag. Girls would know. But it hasn't yet, and well, it really still looks nice. This phone's feel matches the look. Despite being made out of plastic, it does not feel cheap. It's a tad bigger for my tiny hands, but which phones aren't now? There's a teardrop notch on this thing which makes it look like any of our current phones right now, and an HD display that's not the best, but it sorta tries. There's no fingerprint scanner on this, on the screen or otherwise, so you have to type in your password like it's 2017. But there's face unlock. It's not the fastest, but it's there, and that's more than you can say for most entry-level phones. For me, the real test of if I can actually use a particular phone is if it survives my photo taking and social media use. The RealMe C2 has two cameras on the back and they're mainly used for shooting and that depth effect. There is a zoom, but it's only digital, so that means the nearer you go, the more loss and quality you have. Nevertheless, it still works for my doggy photos or my gym mirror selfies. Photo quality is decent and it does the job. This is not the best screen, so I was like, do my stories really look like that? But upon checking on a different phone, they looked awesome, so I guess that's one little compromise. But since it's a compromise for you and not for your story viewers, that's fine. Up front, this thing has a 5 megapixel camera, and I know what you're thinking. You're gonna be like, oh my god, other phones have way more megapixels than that. But here's the deal. The megapixel really matters when you intend to blow up your photos, and that's when you get the detail in. If you're talking about selfies and posting them on social media, I honestly feel like 5 megapixels is enough. Coupled with an AI beauty mode and even gesture control, you can get good selfies on this phone as long as you have ideal lighting, of course. Let me prove it. Here are some of my selfies using a ring light, or even just taking selfies in front of a big window. Again, make sure that beauty mode toggle is not at maximum because that's when you start having those funky selfies. In low light situations though, forget about it. Best you commit these events to memory rather than your camera roll. So yeah, the camera is pretty bare bones, but if you're not planning to shoot cinematic masterpieces of your gym workouts and selfies, I think you should survive. There is a separate game space on this phone, as most phones are prone to having these days. and it allows you to game in peace. Basically, that means you have the option to optimize your games or turn off notifications. Gameplay is fine on the games I've played. I did notice that it is slower than if I play with, say, my other flagship devices, but it's still a consistent playing experience and there are no annoying pauses or lags. So I feel like it did do well actually, especially for an entry level device. Basically, this phone can handle my day to day emails, documents, Twitter, Instagram, mindlessly scrolling on Facebook as I inadvertently give my information away. Though I have no problem with performance, I do notice that it's not the snappiest phone I've used. What's great though is through all the IG stories, the selfies, and the games I play, the 4000 milliamp hour battery delivers. Power bank? Who you? To be perfectly honest, I didn't have high expectations for this particular smartphone. I mean, what can you expect from a smartphone that costs around $150? But I'm very pleasantly surprised. Sure, this thing has compromises and it doesn't give you that smooth flagship experience. But it gives you just the basics and a very well-rounded experience. And if you want an entry-level device that doesn't look the way it's priced, this is a definite candidate. Phones like the RealMe C2 is upping the budget category game. Normally, I'd advise people to throw caution to the wind when buying cheap phones, but this thing may have just changed my mind.